About 65% of the world's population drives on the right side of the road. And while to most of us this seems like the norm and the logical thing to do, this was not always the case. In fact, in the past, almost everybody traveled on the left side of the road. But how did our ancestors arrive to the conclusion that traveling on the left side was the right thing to do? To find the answer, we need to look back in time, really far. Back in the days, before men even thought about building cars, the only way to travel was basically by horse. And back then, knights preferred to keep to the left in order to have the right arm nearest to their opponent because that's where they kept their swords. And since historically a vast majority of the population is right-handed, well, this model stuck and became the way humans travel on roads. The change to right-side traveling came when freight wagons got larger. More horses were needed to pull heavy loads, so teamsters or wagon drivers in France chose to sit on the back left horse for two reasons. Number one was so they could use the right hand to lash the rest of the horses. And number two, since the vast majority of the population has always been right-handed, teamsters decided to ride on the right side of the road so that oncoming wagons pass on the left and they both could see the wheels, making sure they were clear. So basically, right side traveling started in France, and because of the French Revolution in 1752, traveling on the right side of the road was imposed throughout Europe. When Napoleon decided he would go out and conquer the rest of Europe, he would impose right-hand travel on his newly won territories. But the states that resisted Napoleon kept left. The European division between the left and the right-hand nations would remain fixed for more than 100 years until after World War I. With the expansion of travel and road buildings in the 1800s, traffic regulations were made in every country. Left-hand driving was made mandatory in Britain in 1835. Countries which were part of the British Empire followed suit. This is why, to this very date, India, Australasia, and the former British colonies in Africa go left. An exception to this rule, however, is Egypt, which had been conquered by Napoleon before becoming a British dependency. Now, to all this you may ask, what about Japan? It was never invaded or conquered by Napoleon, and it was never part of the British Empire either. As it turned out, the British helped finance and supervise Japan's first railway in the late 1800s. And of course, all trains drove on the left side. Still, it took Japan about half a century until 1924 when left side driving was clearly written in the law. And finally, the US. In the early years of English colonization in North America, English driving customs were followed and the colonists drove on the left. After gaining independence from England, however, the new nation was anxious to cast off all remaining links with their British colonial past and gradually change to right-hand driving. The first law requiring drivers to keep right was passed in Pennsylvania in 1792, and similar laws were passed in New York in 1804 and New Jersey in 1813. Eventually, all states followed, and that's why today we drive on the right side of the road in the USA. The power of the right-hand driving kept growing. American cars were designed to be driven on the right by locating the steering wheel on the vehicle's left side. With the mass production of reliable and economical cars in the United States, initial exports used the same design, and out of necessity, many countries changed the rule and started driving on the right-hand side. While driving on the right side has become the norm for a majority of the population, there are some countries that have made the change on the opposite direction. Most recently, in 2009, the independent state of Samoa became the third country ever to change from right to left-hand driving, joining East Timor, who switched from right to left in 1975, and Okinawa in 1978. The Prime Minister of Samoa wanted to switch sides to make it easy to import cheap cars from left-hand drive in Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. One standard on all this is that the arrangement of the pedals and the gear shift is the same worldwide. No matter on which side the steering wheel is located, going from right to left, the order is always ABC, or accelerator, brake, and clutch for manual transmission cars, or accelerator brake for automatic. The manual gear lever pattern is also the same. One area which is not standardized, however, is the location of the turn signal lever. In most places, the turn signal is mounted on the left side of the steering column and the other way around in some other countries. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe for more. Drive safe, I'll see you in the next.